Welcome into this week's edition of Bullring Breakdown. Once again, the weather not being very nice to us, so we did skip the race recap because there's nothing to recap because it seems like it just rains every day of the week this summer, or I guess it's spring. But while we're here, we got the driver interview portion this week, and I want to remind everybody to like and subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. Rate us 5 stars. Facebook page at Woodhall Raceway and Woodhall Raceway 64 on TikTok. This week, I am joined by a couple of guys that I really owed one to. A Lad Road Auto hobby stock drivers, Mike and Cannon Palmer. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
Real good, Joe. How are you?
Good, good. So I'm gonna give a little bit of background here. When I went in and did the interview with Terry Pierce, and we went to the Birdsall shop, and we did a complete interview. I think we probably got what, an hour. I probably
Yeah,
talked to you about an hour, and we didn't get the audio for it.
that's right. We said the first one was free, and then the second one we were charging for. So
Right. Well, that's why I didn't go anywhere. We just stayed home. But I like to blame the cameraman for that one. So
definitely was Terry's fault. Yeah, and he's
yeah.
not here, so it's way easy to blame him.
Right. I can say he can wrap a great race car, but we're still gonna pick on him for not being able to run audio on a camera.
The audio part. Yeah, he's good with the camera, but it's the audio. The clickers don't normally have volume.
Right, yeah, right. Um, so Mike, I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, so this past weekend, I said earlier that when I interviewed you, you were in the Birdsall shop. So I kind of want to get your, I guess just your recall of, what was it, a couple of weeks ago now when you and Joe were kind of battling for the lead there in the heat race?
Yeah, yeah. So I gotta be honest with you, I did everything my dad told me to do on that one. He said, drive it in hard, and he says, send it. So I did, and just so happened, he hit me. I don't know what to say about that. He hit me and just totally pile drive.
Oh no, no, what here?
And he rolled the car. Obviously, it was all totally intentional. I might have come up a little bit. I guess the wind was just right up that side in turn three, and just kind of blew me up the track and touch.
Yeah.
I mean, not much, but and then after he did say he knew better than to put his nose where it didn't belong. So in all reality, I think it was more so the big guy's fault. I'd like to blame my coach.
Joe, do you have anything to say about this?
I'll take the blame for it any day. It's definitely my fault.
Well, and the way the night ended, it made up for it, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Disney couldn't have wrote a better script, I think.
That's 100%
I
right.
tell you, congratulations to the Morrisman, but he couldn't have picked a worse week to have that happen. He might have got driver of the week.
I know it. Um, so I guess I want to ask you guys, what's kind of going through your head there? I know, Joe, I've had people on that have flipped before, but let's start with you. What kind of goes through your head when you're kind of going over like that? Hold on for dear life.
If you really want to know what's going through my head, it's
Keep
not
it
it's not a
PG.
lot. But yeah, I mean, got into three, and once I felt that left front hit, when I hit Mike, I guess I want to say
That's right. That's right.
with my left front,
That's right.
I guess there was some things that went through my head and maybe some things that I said that aren't quite PG rated, but sliding down the backstretch, it was not a fun feeling on that left side.
And then Mike, what were you thinking once you got into him? Because I'm guessing did you know that he flipped until somebody told you?
No. Well, I knew as soon as I heard red, 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 and then I knew he didn't catch fire. I knew he rolled over at that point, and to be honest with you, I was starting to unbuckle.
Oh,
Yeah, John come down,
Oh.
great guy, and John came down and said, he's good, race thing, and I felt horrible, obviously, when that happened. I really did.
And
A lot of things, went through my mind. Obviously, hope he's okay. And when John gave me the touch, just tell me how it is, and he said he was good. So everything was good after that. And
Cannon,
then
what were you thinking? Sitting, because were you in the heat race or were you over in the lineup? I can't
I
remember.
was in the lineup and I could just see Joe go over, and I was like, "Oh God!" And then I thought he was done for the night because normally when people roll, they don't like fix it and then go win the feature.
normal people ain't Joe Birdsall.
Yeah,
We found that out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we came to race, and everyone's got spare parts, so we just had to. I mean, luckily I got.
Big thanks to Conklin. I fixed it all by myself. the whole car,
Yeah.
I felt so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, luckily he donated. I think he donated some parts to us. I don't
Yeah,
know if he's
yeah,
getting them parts
yeah.
back. So
It seemed to
Well,
work.
well, you
No.
don't have to tell him that, right?
I think I've told him
Yeah,
3 or 4 times.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we said thank you, Conklin, from
Yeah.
Conklin Solutions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Conklin.
Yeah.
So what all did you guys have to fix that night? Was it because I know the roof was caved in pretty good, and then was it the A post or?
Yeah, I mean it was we had a little bit of body damage, but other than that, it was mainly a shock and a trailing arm that broke and 2 tires blew off the bead, which I blew back up and ended up it was just really it was a pretty good rollover for as far as rollovers go. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't even consider it a rollover. It was just you think of a rollover like 2, 3,
Yeah, like a
consecutive.
barrel roll.
Yeah, this was just kind of flipped up on its side, and but I did get the car back last night. Tracy Dunn had it for a couple days, and he put a new halo in it and some new the roll bars in it. So
Yeah.
should be good to go. We did auction the roof off. Craig Kopp won that, so we got to get with him and get him his autographed roof, and should be good to go.
I think Mike should autograph it too.
That's right.
Yeah, I think
That's
I
right.
think he's a big part of this.
That's right.
I mean,
Without the 007 license to thrill, none of that would have happened. Maybe winning the race would have happened, but I don't know, with those old parts you had on that car when you started, and Conklin donating them new parts, who knows? Who knows? That was a big part of that. I'm gonna take a runner up on that one.
I can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
can't
An
thank you
assist.
enough.
I'd like to call that an assist. I'd like that for points. I'd like assist points for that if I could, please.
Yeah.
I don't. This isn't hockey.
All right, all right.
So Mike and Cannon, how did you guys get your start in racing? I know Cannon, you're pretty young. I know I've heard this before, but why don't you just enlighten the people that are listening?
So one day I used to go to the races with Joe, with like Braden and Andrew and them, and then I come home and I go, if I can save up enough money, can I race? And my dad said, if you can save up half of it, I'll save up the other half. So we started collecting cans and going down and cashing them in for the money, and then we eventually got enough money. And then when I started going down and racing, my dad said he's paying the same money to go down in to pay the same money. Why not race?
Yep.
So he bought a race car too.
That's how you remember it?
Yeah, short version. I don't know how many cans we collected, to be honest with you, Joe, but I'm pretty sure the next day I stopped at Joey's shop. This guy now really I stopped at Joey's shop after I told him that, and I'm like, well, now I gotta stop finally at Birdsall shop and see what kind of race car I should get him. I figured it would end up being a Warriors car. But when I stopped there, Joey's like, we did the Warriors thing with Braden, and he said, we can get him in a hobby stock for about the same money, and yeah, it's gonna be a little rough racing there for a little bit, but he's really got the hang of it. And he's doing really good out there. We're proud of him. But with the car thing, when I went down, Joey's like, yeah, he goes, Dale's car was for sale at the time. The one Cannon's got now, and he had bought Mikey's car back then, Mikey Spencer. So it was another chassis that Joey had built. They built down in his shop. So when that happened, one of the deals I made with my wife was I had to drive that car. So I did drive his car in one race, which was the end of 23. Right, we're in 25. So it would have been the last race of 23. I went down and put some race gear on, and I got out there a little late. I was eating chicken fingers, but I did make it on the track. I did run. I didn't spin out. I did almost spin out a few times. I spun out less in my first race than I have in every race since. And on my own. And I says, after that, I looked at Michelle and said, yeah, he can do that. So we got down there and watched him a few times, and it's really what happened. I says, four or five races deep, I just looked at my wife. I'm like, you can only watch for so long, and what other sport can you do with your 13-year-old son at the time? And he was 12 then. And so I bought a car that Butler was getting ready before he got hot into the street stocks. He had it just about done. Joey done a bunch of work on it. His guys did a bunch of work on it, and I went up there and worked a smoking deal with Brian on that. And I took a week off of work where I work now, and I shut my business down, and I says, I got enough scrap down there to buy that car. So I did. I went down and just started tearing coils apart, and I took everything back to Weitzman's, and that first car was named Scrappy Doo because of that. And we did a kind of a tribute to Weitzman's on the back and said thanks for, obviously cashing in my stuff. And we made a race car out of it. So it was a blast. Like I say, I as a kid, we used to always go to Woodall. I had family that had a race car there at the time, and we'd go down and watch. And then he got out of racing, so we quit going down. And as we got older, and he started going down with the Birdsalls at the time, I owned my own business, so it was hard, being on call all the time. I just couldn't really take him. So that was one of the big pushes there when COVID hit, and I kind of decided to go out of business and do something different. So, but that's how we did it. He talked me into it with a short talk outside one day, and it's all led it to here. Rolling Joey Birdsall last week.
So you said
Where we're at.
you said you closed your business down. You're kind of a jack of all trades. So what exactly are you doing now?
Yeah, so there was a company we always had a subcontract going with, and they're a general contractor, and they do more commercial work, but design build company out of Orchard Park called the Crow Group. They also own some parts of some hotels around Harbor Hotel. There's one in Chautauqua up in Caton, and obviously one in Watkins Glen. But they also own some commercial property that they rent out. So I'm part of the maintenance team there. Been there just over 3 years, I think now. And it was kind of we were doing a job with them at the Cuca condos, and they knew that I was struggling for help when COVID hit. We lost a couple of guys that didn't come back, and I just, such a small market for labor and help. And, we were at a point in life where the kids were getting older, and I kind of need to be around a little better. And, instead of working 120 hours a week, I now, work 40 to 50. If they need me a little more, I'm there a little more, but now I got time, to do this stuff with family. And it's really quality time, it's really worth it. And I can't tell you, I've been in a lot of families, and race family is family. You literally never want that to go away.
Joe,
You know,
I gotta ask you right now, Joe. What what are you wearing? This doesn't make great audio, but what are you wearing?
Playing.
Winner.
One of my sponsors stopped by and he wanted to give me some swag, got on the old Snap-on truck, Scott and Anthony. Stopped at my work and kind of hooked me up with one of these. So I'm a local Snap-on dealer.
For those of you that are just watching the audio version, Joe is wearing a giant gold chain with a big Snap-on logo on the bottom of
If
it.
that doesn't get you to subscribe, I don't know what's good.
Yeah, I'll tell you, people got to watch the video for this one because that's unbelievable. So I guess one of the other things is I know you do a lot of side projects, and I see that you got some bottles up behind you, and I kind of wanted to ask you too about your maple syrup business.
Yeah. So
All him.
as the kids got older, I got a buddy of mine, Lee Bennett. His wife used to own Bennett's Greenhouse, a great place to go in Hornell.
Yeah.
And Lee got into maple syrup. And when I was in the heating business, me and Lee did a lot of farms together. We'd do the calf barns, we'd do the heating and stuff, and he would build them. And we got to be good friends over the years. So Lee got into maple syrup, and one day he said, "Hey, can you come up and help me with my fuel oil on the maple syrup thing?" And I always wanted to see it. Anyways, I says, "Yeah, I'll come up." So of course you grab some libation on the way up, and you sit there and you look at what he's got, and it was amazing. Like I just couldn't believe from tree to this evaporator thing that he's running all this stuff through, and he's showing me all. And I was in the plumbing business, right? He's showing me this RO system, and I'm just like, yeah, like just agreeing so I didn't look like an idiot. But there wasn't a thing on there. I knew what it did. Not a thing. And it's a pretty amazing business if you've never seen maple syrup made. But, we go to these trees, and Lee talked me into it. He said, the kids are older. You got to do something at your house. You got all these maple trees. So we did. And we just tapped a few hundred taps one year. We bought a small evaporator, and the kids, Cannon and McKinley went out, and me and Michelle got into it some. And, it was fun. We had a blast at it in the pole barn. We made 60 some gallons the first year. And we had a blast with it. Friends would come up, just local people, and we'd just hang out and boil syrup. And we were throwing boiled eggs in it and hot dogs and you name it. We were just giving the syrup away. Well, one thing led to the next, and I met Schweigarts at Schweigarts Sugar Shack. So Lee introduced me to them. And if I curse Lee Bennett out, there's a lot of good reason for that, because it's a lot of hard work when we get through this. So he introduced me to Schweigarts, and Kathy and George, they take my hand and show me the way to go. So we buy some equipment. We go from 364 taps to about 1,800 taps the second year. From the second year to the third year, we went to 4,400 taps, and I think now we're right up there about close to 5,000. So it just got crazy over a year. We did that. The first year was 364, yeah, and then the next year was just went crazy.
So you get
So now we make close to, this year was about 1,300 gallons of syrup we made. But our best year was a couple years ago, and we made close to 2,000 gallons of syrup. So all depends on the winter. Kind of a family thing. We got Pomerosa Maple Farms. Is now what the name is. I've always called our house Pomerosa since we built it, just kind of jokingly, and then we turned it into a farm. And we got an orchard that we tend to. Hopefully someday we can sell some fruit. But it's something we do as a family. It keeps us sane. Something different. I think everybody should have a little something different when you get home, and that's just what we built with what we've been lucky enough to get.
you said you guys have only done it for a couple of years.
Yeah, 3 years. This will be our third year at the cabin. So we bought another property, which is the Sugar Shack, and that's where we put the evaporator, and that's where most of the taps are. It's on Acker Road in Hartsville, and we live on Cook Road in Hartsville, spelled just like your last name. So,
Well,
we tap both places, and we haul sap from our house to the cabin, and we have an RO system that kind of breaks it down that keeps us not boiling for days at a time. We can do it for a few hours and make a few hundred gallons of syrup, when it's ready. So we get better and better by the year. We're just starting out. My wife, we did do some flavored maple syrup this year, infused stuff. That's what you see above us a little bit in the clear bottles. And so we do have it for sale at PomerosaMapleFarms.com.
uh, so
Ship it, bring it.
I got to tell you though that if you talk to my dad, he's going to tell you that you got it easy.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. From the old days, I'm 1,000. I would never disagree with that.
That's what
You
I told him before. I said I don't mind helping you, but there's no way I'm going to do it if we're going back to buckets.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of places that do it. You talk
I
to
I know.
Overhand, that's how
Well,
they still do it.
so how did you come up with the idea to put infused flavor? Is that
Well,
just
we saw
something you
it in
kind of
some
thought
other
of? Or?
stuff, and we got these peach trees I planted years ago in our front yard, and we've gotten peaches off them in the past, but just a few here and there. Last year, it was unreal what we got there was thousands and thousands of peaches. Just a great year. We didn't get a late frost. It nipped them. We were pulling peaches just not to break trees. We were pulling them when they weren't even ripe, just so we didn't lose them. So what we couldn't give away, we hated to see them drop on the ground, and so we started dehydrating. I said, let's dehydrate them, eat them like jerky. So we did. And when we were boiling, I said to my wife, I said, hey, we got them in the freezer. I said, bring some of those dehydrated ones up. We'll try to infuse some. George and Kathy, they always sell some that I've seen, and I've had their coffee and their blueberry. It's delicious. And then so we tried it, and we did the peaches first, and we couldn't wait to taste it. So we did, and then I said, well, let's try banana, and I said, let's try apple, and let's try blueberry. So then coffee, and then vanilla. I mean, I don't know what else did we make. I think that covers them, but it was great. Everyone we tried, it's been delicious. Joey who hasn't tried the coffee yet. He hates coffee, so he won't even give it a
Yeah,
smell. But
that's bad for you.
yeah,
Could
but
you,
it is good. If you put it over a little vanilla ice cream or something, it's unreal.
well, could you imagine Joe Birdsall on coffee?
Oh yeah, I don't think. I've
I
seen him
don't.
on Mountain Dew, just a few sips, and if
I
you
was
see
gonna.
Whale on Saturday night, usually Conklin's fed him two of the Mountain Dew, but he's
Yeah.
off the wall scraping mud. I mean, I think he makes more money than any of the drivers on a Saturday night
For
scraping
sure.
mud.
That's the secret is you guys have Joe Birdsall to thank for running last every week because we see the way that he's all hopped up and we can't put him out there too early in the night.
That's
It's my
right.
fault.
That's right. It does make sense now.
Oh
Well, we,
man.
we gotta wait for your caffeine high to come down a little bit. We don't know what you'd do if you're all hopped up going.
I,
Yeah.
I'm always hopped up. I'm always, yeah, and there's not much going through my head on that racetrack other than stay in front of that one car. So
So Cannon, how do you like racing with your dad?
It's really fun. I remember when one time it was last year. I come around turn three, and then he just and he had a really good corner, and he come out, and then he dumps it going into turn three, and I was hit him, but It's really fun racing with him.
So I got to ask you, if it ever comes down to you two coming out of turn four for the win, are you going to spin him out for the win?
Yes, yes, 100%. Yes.
Mike,
Well,
are you going to spin him out?
1000%. You know, there's no doubt in my mind. I think the three of us sitting here know we're all getting dumped if that's what it's coming down to, unfortunately. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, as long as one of us takes the flag, I guess I can't be too upset.
Well,
Yeah, I
at
can't
least
wait to see
hopefully.
it. I do hope it's the shortest of the three of us there for the first one, but Joey's already showed us what obviously he could do. So it's hard to beat a good veteran.
Right. So what kind of so how nice is it to have a good friend like him who does actually know who's been at this a really really long time, just to kind of bounce things off of if you want to kind of try something different, or do you not do you just kind of let him tell you
I
where
do
to
what it's
go?
told, Joe. To be honest with you. I'm a good listener. I'm a good Indian when I need to be, you know. So he's the chief when it comes to this stuff, no doubt. It'd be no different if we were putting a furnace in at his house. I'd just say go grab a tool, you know,
Yeah,
something
that,
like
that ain't
that.
my cup of tea.
Yeah. So, you know, we're all good at something. Unfortunately, I'm not the greatest under a race car hood. I can promise you that. So we worked out a pretty good deal, pretty good friendship here, and it's wheeling for sure.
So what about you, Cannon? Are you just kind of soaking up everything you can, kind of learning from, because I know you guys got a really good group of guys.
Learning from all of them, right?
Yeah.
Literally all of them. I'm not kidding. There's not a guy at the track I don't think that he's learned something from. Especially in the hobby stock group up there. You know, I mean, they're all great to him. You know, back when we do miss Carpella, but you know, back when Carpella was there, I mean, he'd talk to him and tell him, you know, just to slow it down or whatever he needed to do, whatever he thought. And it was great. Conklin, the same thing. Took him under his wing as if he was his own kid almost, you know. And Joey, I can't say enough. You know, he can talk to him a lot easier and you know, and he knows what he's talking about. Anything I'm saying to Cannon is usually repeating whatever it was he said.
I know what I'm talking about.
Well,
Run the line, I run in the heat. Don't listen to that.
well, I mean, he does get serious at times. It's just that sometimes this isn't one of the times, but he does give him some great pointers and he listens. You know, Cannon does suck it in. He's a sponge at the age he is, and he just loves it. You know, I didn't realize how much I loved racing until your kid gets you in it. I can promise you that.
Well, there ought to be more kids getting into it, and you know what, we had Braden into it, and we do go-karting with my youngest Waylon. He's 7. And I really think that the family can really get into, racing's a sport that everyone can kind of get into. And I'd like to see more kids. I'd love to see more kids getting into it. I mean,
Transformers is because have like younger kids in the grandstand see like I want Megatron to win or I want Optimus Prime to win instead of like I just want that car to win. So like they get more used to it and like it more because they have a car like a character or like something to pick.
yeah, something they've seen before.
Yeah.
Right. And I think your teammate Reese is kind of the same. I would call him your teammate. Reese
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
his,
he's
and
not,
his,
he's not
his
here, but
right. It's the Cars theme. So his is it's kind of the same thought, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
something for the kids to look at.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're shooting for. Actually, Joey, he brought it up and said, yeah, like I said, he's the chief. And we loved it. So
So Cannon,
we
I
loved
can
it.
see the car right behind you. Did you pick the colors out for that thing?
No, Joe just said I have it all planned out, and then he just told us all of our guys, and then he kind of showed us a brief of like what they looked like in the movie,
Yeah.
and then I said, "Yeah, I like it,"
Yeah.
and then it came out like this.
I
like
mean, he's
it.
got an eye for it. He's been around it his whole life, you know, and literally just knows the
I can't
the
take a lot of
curvature.
that credit. A lot of that was Terry. I
Yeah.
mean, I gave
He
Terry
gave him ideas, and Terry
went with it, and we just kind of massaged it a little bit. And I mean, all 4 cars, Terry
Killed it.
knocked him out. I
Yeah.
mean, knocked him
Did a
right
great
out of the
job.
park.
So did your customers. Great job.
There you go.
Yeah.
And actually, tomorrow I'm getting my roof rewrapped by him. He's coming right to the house, so he does. I mean, he goes above and beyond when it needs to be done. He'll come right to your shop and do it. So
I'll tell you, Joe, I was actually happy to see you win because I thought maybe Terry might not have been happy because I was wondering if you kept going the way you were, if you were going to go back to the red color.
Yeah, I haven't. I'll be honest with you, Joe. The yellow car this year just hasn't.
Curse Kathy.
Kathy has not been very good to me. I mean, I was kind of hesitant going from the red, and when we went to the yellow, I was like, I told them guys, I'm like, I don't know. And then the first couple races, I mean, we couldn't turn a lap, and
It got so bad, Joe, I was trying to give him the red car.
yeah,
I was like, you just take the red car. I'll drive the yellow car. Switch the number. Whatever we gotta do.
Right.
I mean, we stuck with it, and I like the car now. It looks a lot better when it's upside down. I will tell you that. That's really what sold it for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, because I told Terry, I think it was when we were recapping the race, and I said I don't think he'd mind me saying this, but he's the guy that really needed a win because I don't know if been a guy with more miserable 2 weeks of racing than Joe Birdsall those first 2 weeks, and then it kept going into the heat race even.
Yeah, it did. I mean, you get kicked off the horse and you just get right back on and saddle up, and that's kind of what we did. And luckily, everything in the feature went our way. And like I keep saying, I kept the one car behind me, so and it was a heck of a race. I don't know how long we ran side by side. It had been 8 or 10 laps, and
Yeah,
I think Conklin's a heck of a good guy. He's got that car figured out pretty good, and we bounce ideas off each other. And I do my thing, he does his, and at the end of the day, there's 10 or 20 different ways to get there, and you know, we both get there in the end. So it's kind of fun. And I mean, I see these two. I see a lot of improvements, out of Cannon from last year. Excuse me, that leak did. And
You're welcome.
Cannon's come a long ways from last year. I mean, he had a full season on him, so he really this year we've done a little bit more tweaking to the car, and he's doing pretty good. And Mike's got his growing pains. He didn't quite run a full year last year, so he's kind of learning the new car. And I see both. There's you watch them, they're coming, they're getting it, and it's not something you're going to pick up overnight. And Reese Hackett, the same thing with him. I mean, he was leading that race last Saturday, and in my old car that I won the championship in 2018, and I'm following this car again, trying to pass it after all the years that Mikey Spencer drove it, after I sold it. And I think Reese is right there too. So I mean, he's got some laps, and
Mhm.
he's obviously got a little bit more racing experience. So I don't know. The classes, and I could keep talking about the whole class. I mean, you got Dylan Phillips, who's already won one, and then
Brian Austin.
Brian Austin, who
Yeah.
broke out a new car this
Another one,
year.
but great Cannon up there.
Yeah, and
He's
it's
he's
just
gonna win a race this year.
oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, him and Alan Crooker got together, and they definitely got something. They
Mhm.
got something working under that car. He got out of the old car and into the new car, and you could just tell it's that one handles, that one works. I followed it, so
And Cannon got into that. It was the 4X Josh Stone. He's a great guy. We met him at the track there. And we met him the first night. I was walking up after Joey changed his distributor, and he went down and ran 20 or 25 laps. And I videoed a few just to send them to him, and he was ripping it up on the top. I mean, it was unreal the night. The second night he didn't make the feature. He finally changed the distributor on it. He got her going and got her out there, and it was just killing it. Well, I was walking back up, and I about run right into that Josh Stone's truck. I was just kind of daydreaming. It was 1:30 in the morning, and
well, I was late.
he was still there. And he says, "Hey, you Palmer?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "You're part of your kid's bumpers right here." And he got stuck. He got stuck in his door bar. Well, then last week, the following week, we introduced. I introduced him to Ken, and they shake hands. We all talk, and it was great meeting him. And then the very next week, doesn't it's like Cannon? I take it, I fix a spot on there. We can put the same piece back in that Josh gave him. And the very next week, he walks up to our pits with the same piece of bumper. And he goes, "It was in the exact same spot." So those guys were good guys. I think his brother's name was Jesse. But they come up, and we got to talk with them. So it's a pretty tight group. Everybody seems to get along good, and it's fun. It's really been a great time.
Right. So Cannon, how is it? Because I imagine it's got to be pretty awesome to kind of, because you're really new, and I know Mike, you are too to racing, but I'm assuming that you've driven a big V8 car before. I
Yeah.
would imagine that Cannon probably has never even sat in one until he got the race car. So how was that like, kind of your first night behind the wheel?
It was fun. I I got used to it like by the first few laps, and then I pulled off because it was the first feature, and then I stayed out or tried for the last few or for the rest of them. And last week I think I finished third in my heat, so I think
He's coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Going
coming.
in the right
And it was
direction.
funny, last year Joey was running what was that? When we were going back and forth to Bradford, the shootout.
Oh,
The Southern South Shootout.
Southern, north,
North,
southern,
north, south.
north, south shootout.
thing.
So when we went over, Ken's like, when can I race Bradford? When can I race Bradford? And I said to him, I says, you can race Bradford when you can go through a whole race and you don't cause a caution. I said, you can be in a caution. I said, but we don't cause one. And the very next race was the Dirty 30. And I got into Carpella a little bit and took my radiator out. And so I got to watch the Dirty 30 that happened in the heat. So it was the best race to ever sit and watch. I was never so happy. He ran the whole 30 laps, and I think he only got lapped by a few cars, and he never was in a caution, never caused a caution. And he come off the track and he said, "Now I can go to Bradford," and then Bradford doesn't have hobby stocks this year. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was funny. I mean, just a smile on his face. He went through a whole race. It was worth it all. It was worth every penny spent. Just the big, shit-eating grin was pretty awesome.
So how
Yeah.
is it for you as a dad to kind of watch him kind of start? Because I saw him, I watched where he started, so to
Yeah.
see kind of how he's just
There's
grown.
a lot of proud dad moments, Joe. I can't lie to you. Every week there seems to be another proud dad moment. Especially when I get to watch it. My wife's nice enough to video it for the best part. This she can. We do miss the Futro
Catch
or
up.
Ketro. Yeah, we do miss Ketro.
Jason's wife always
She
did a
always
great
videoed
job.
it and did a great job. But like we gotta see if Michelle can get up in the stands there, maybe a different camera. But it does help, and it's great to watch. It's that first week there we raced. Watching Cannon come out at 3 and 4 and one on the video was just phenomenal. Just again, it was a proud dad moment. He was getting it. But of course, I was driving pretty good that night too, so it had to be an easy track because somehow I didn't spin out either.
Hey, you're learning too. So
Yeah, yeah.
like I said, you don't have a million laps turned either. So don't cut yourself
No,
too short.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, these things, these really, they're race cars. I mean, but you're on a DOT tire that we buy at Walmart, and so the whole thing. I mean, I almost lost it leading the race with 2 to go when Conklin was following me there. I mean, I almost spun out in 3 and 4. I mean, it happens. They're kind of a handful to drive, and they take a lot of quite a few laps to really trust them to where you can, push the envelope and run them to where you're almost spinning out every lap. So it's all in time. Everyone's doing a good job. I'm real happy with everyone. So
Right. And I was gonna say too that you guys keep saying that that you want to get to where you don't spin out by yourself, but I've seen Joe Birdsall, Brandon Conklin, Dylan Phillip, I've seen all of them spin out all by themselves. So
that's right. That's
there's,
right.
I mean,
it's gonna
you
happen.
think about it, you've only got say 6 inches of tread on the ground. I mean, with these DOT tires, and I mean, you ever looked at a modified or a late model? They've got 2 feet on each side, so. Obviously, they got more power, but I mean, it's less rubber on the track at the end of the day. So it's they're you ever get Kenny Peoples on one of these? Why don't you ask him about his hobby stock career? He drove Mikey's one year, and he says, "I don't know how you drive those dang things." Like it was funny, but
When I talked to him, the only thing that he brought up was street stocks.
yeah, he did pretty good in the street stocks. Yeah,
And then he wanted to run the 100, but other than that, I don't know if he'd ever touched the hobby stock.
yeah, he did. He did one time. It wasn't a good one. It didn't end up. It didn't fare out very well, I guess. So.
So what about you guys? Have you guys ever thought about maybe trying maybe something open wheel, or is it just the cost of these things are so nice and a full size car is just where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for myself. I've ventured out into the street stock stuff. I mean, I ran front wheel drives for 10 years and I was just trying to get out of that. So in 17 or 18, when they came out with the hobby stocks, I jumped into it, with both feet and sold everything. But and then we thought after we won the championship in 18, we needed a street stock, and that really wasn't my cup of tea. That's I mean, these things that beat them out, you know, throw a couple of parts on them. They're not really finicky. setup wise, and they're pretty simple to maintain. And uh, tires are cheap, fuel's cheap, and this is probably the extent of my racing career, unless someone's really dumb enough to put me in something more expensive. So
What
I don't know
about you,
about these
Mike? Do
guys.
you ever see yourself moving anywhere? Or
I'd be honest, it's probably when he wants to get out of hobby stock, if it's something else, I'll probably just sit on the sideline at that point and donate, you know, donate, and he's gonna have no choice but to. So,
what
yeah.
about you, Cannon? Where do you want to go?
I want to like maybe in a few years or like a lot of years when I like win a few races and get comfortable with this, I want to move up like maybe like a street stock and hopefully like a late model and then do like start doing the Rush series and then maybe move up to the World of Outlaws like where they travel everywhere.
That's
You're
Gotta
gonna
have
have to wait
goals.
for Dad to
that's pretty
retire.
cool.
Gotta have goals, Joe.
Yeah.
You gotta wait for Dad to retire, probably.
And then some.
Be able to retire.
Yeah, it doesn't sound it.
Well, no.
But we'll see. I'll do what I can. How's that?
Right. Well, and I'll tell you one thing too, Cannon. When I had Austin Allen on here, he spent a year in the street stock, and I don't know, kind of talking to him, I didn't really get the vibe that he didn't wish that he didn't just jump straight into one. So maybe skip that part out, go right to a late model. I know you're probably happy to hear that, Dad.
Well, it's just one less whole thing you gotta kind of try to learn, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wrap my head around them.
he
So
will.
that's the Davis,
Yeah, he will.
Marlette,
He will.
Austin Allen crew there.
Well, the good thing is when if you want to move to that class, you got a lot of guys that are local that'll help you.
Yeah,
No, yeah,
yeah,
for
You
sure.
know.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing for you guys. I've always said that you guys have one of the close, at least from my view, one of the closest group in the pits. There's not very many that when almost anybody wins, there's somebody else pulling into the infield to congratulate them and get out. And, that's a pretty rare thing in racing.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're doing this for fun. We're doing this to put a show on, and I mean, there's not much fun in having enemies down there. I mean, and at the end of the day, be happy for the guy that won, and
Try to move up.
do your homework and your piece of make your car faster. I mean, if you want to be there, then put the work in. I mean, there's no sense in being butthurt about it. I mean, be happy for
Right. And it's no fun fixing race cars every week either.
No.
them.
So I want to ask you guys, so Reese Hackett, when well, 2 weeks ago, he was leading the race and he goes off of the backstretch. And I'm told by Terry Pierce on the radio, he goes, well, he's holding the steering wheel and it's not connected to anything.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I mean that was an old car. Like I said, that was my old car. So and Mikey Spencer drove it for a couple of years and it got put in the barn and kind of just got parts robbed off of it for a while. And I Reese had been talking a lot about he wants to get a hobby stock. I said, I got the perfect car, give me a motor. So we put it together. And on the steering shaft, where it goes in the steering box, it's got splines and it's got a collar with a set screw in it. And I don't know if the set screw came out. Maybe we needed it at some point over the last couple of years. Maybe it wasn't even in there. I don't know. But it sounds like it just slid
Came
right
out.
out. Like
Came
he was
out.
coming out of two, and all of a sudden the thing just come back
He said he knew something was happening
and
that turn before.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He said he had to turn a little more than he thought he should have had to. And
Which
then the next turn it was done.
I mean, I'll take blame in it. I mean, I kind of put the thing together at first. I might have missed over it, or maybe it worked its way out. But I
Thanks
mean,
for sticking with that.
yeah, I mean, things happen.
so
Race car.
how do you have time, Joe?
I don't know. Now that they're all done, and like Reese has got his car at his place, and then Mike and Cannon got their cars here. I mean, really, it's just like if something major happens, obviously, okay, bring it down. But we just, everyone kind of does their weekly maintenance and washes their cars and cleans their air filters. And if they need oil changes or bumpers or stuff like that, then we schedule them to come down and we throw them in the shop and make it happen. Just do it.
Right. So So Mike, is that just are are you uh are you just kind of doing your weekly maintenance then? What kind of maintenance are you guys doing on them? Just like
Yeah,
you
so
said,
they
just
come up here
changing
and
oil
then
and stuff?
yeah, we pick him up here, Cannon pretty much greases him. He's working his half the car off. So he's up here greasing them and I help him pound out the dents. It was usually Sunday morning after we have a race team breakfast of some sort. We come out and we get some pointers from Joey before he heads off on his busy day of either fixing his car or something. And he points us in the right direction. We pound him out. I know there when me and Reese got into it together there.
No.
I caved in my passenger side and it did a number. So I got it off, beat it to hell for a while with a hammer, and then I looked at the skid steer and thought, boy, I bet I could run that right over, flatten her back out. So I did. It come right out perfect. Um, Perfect to read it from the stance. You know, it doesn't look so crinkly.
That's pretty good.
It's not sitting next to me in the car.
It's
Yeah.
it's
So yeah,
flat.
that seems to work. I did, you figure things out, right? It's like being a farmer. You make it work, at this point. And, you look back at the history of the hobby stock, that's what it was all about. Make it work.
Well, is that something that you guys really appreciate about that class too? Because I've always said that it's one of my favorite classes anywhere because I love the simplicity of them. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are pretty simple, and a lot of times, the rule book doesn't get in the way, you know, financially and whatnot. And the cars pretty much stay the same every year. So, I mean, you can take in, that's the nice thing about locking the rules in for, excuse me, for, I think we lock them in for 3 or 4 or 5 years at a time. If it takes someone more than a year to build a car, oh, I want to do it, but I'm on a budget and whatever time, whatever you're up against, it's still going to be there. And the cars really haven't changed much since the class started. I've been in it since it started, and I've been around quite a bit of racing, and it's definitely an easy rule package to figure out. And like I said, you go to Walmart for $70, it's tires, and you run 1540 Rotella diesel oil in them, and every 3 weeks change the oil. I mean, they're not very complicated, I guess, and that's what's nice about them.
Right. So how's finding parts for them?
I mean, you can if you got a lot of time and you don't have a lot of money. I mean, you can still find these things for sale. You can buy them for 1,500 or 2 grand, or you go the other route and you go to like your close racing supply in Elgin, PA, that hooks us up with all our parts that we need. And it is a little bit more money, but you're getting a quality part from them. And I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to be putting a lower control arm on that's from 1987 that's been sitting in the weeds. I mean, you'd rather spend 120 or $130, whatever they are, and put something that's, safer and gonna last.
Right. Well, I guess I didn't know that Close Racing Supply did. I guess it makes sense thinking about it, but I guess I didn't know that they made parts for your guys' cars too.
Yeah, yeah, they're stocking a little bit more now with that Rush Series race that they have, the Rush Hobby stocks, out like state line and whatnot. They're running them, and they're pretty close to our rule package steel bodies, and I think they can run a racing tire, and they're on a spec shock, but like it's still the same components and the suspension and whatnot, and yeah, they're huge when it comes to bad week at bad Saturday night. You're on the phone Monday morning talking to Joel or Austin or DJ, and then parts are here in a day or two. So it's definitely good to have them guys close enough to have the stuff quick enough.
And
Yeah.
usually there's somebody going over during the week,
Yeah,
between the crew of guys that we all know. And, they
yeah,
always try to call around, say, hey, what do you need? We're heading over, call in your shit.
I,
So,
I can I can vouch for that because I think every week on Facebook I see somebody post heading to Close or anybody going to Close, and then sure enough, 3 or 4 guys will comment or or say, hey, I'm down that way, what do you need? Or
yeah, yeah. That does make it easy, so you don't have to. It's about an hour for us, and some people that are a little bit more southeast. It's a little bit more of a hike for us, for them. So when we go, we grab it and, you kind of help out your fellow racers and
Yeah, it's hard to time wise, right? So especially if it's later in the week when you know you need it, and
Mhm.
finally you don't get your car till Wednesday or Thursday, and you need something. Usually there's somebody going over on a Friday, or I'll get there first thing Saturday morning. They open
Yeah,
early, so
Right. And then you're putting the part in on Saturday, right?
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's when it's down to crunch time. When
that's
you're
right.
when you're getting parts on Saturday and putting them in on Saturday, that was a really bad week.
Done that before.
Yeah, we have.
I was gonna
We
say,
worked on the plan. What's
is
that,
this
Joe?
is this a common occurrence? Because it sounds like Mike here's ran over every teammate he's got.
Oh, there it is.
Sometimes, Joe, I get hit too. Like that. Pull his car. He come right down
Yeah,
into me.
yeah, it'll always be
But
my
Reese
fault.
did hit me. That was all Reese. That wasn't my
It'll
fault.
always be my fault.
You wait,
That's all
Camden, it'll
right.
be your
Hit me
fault
in the
too.
caution because I hit him a little bit,
I'll
and he
take
hit me
it.
in a caution for crying out loud. Somehow that was my fault. He said I brake checked him. I didn't.
I pushed the clutch in instead of the brake.
Right.
Figure that out.
Yeah, we're still figuring out what the pedals do, Joe.
So you so you yelled at your dad because you thought he brake checked you, and turns out you
Yeah, I
didn't
get
hit the
out of the car
brake.
and I said, somebody hit me. I put my hand up. I knew it was him because I knew he was right behind me. But I got out of the car up the pitch as if I didn't know it. I said, somebody hit me in the caution. And he goes, yeah, you brake checked me. I said, the hell I did. It was pretty.
Yeah, and then I get in, and then when I'm loading, I go, "Hey, I might have hit the clutch instead of the brake."
Yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, it's all learning, right? It's all fun. At least like I said in the beginning, at least the night at the racetrack's better than watching it rain, which is really all we've been doing, it seems like. So,
Yeah, we're gonna start. I think we're gonna start grapes. Is that where we're start rice or grapes? What are we doing?
Well, something in the wetness, I guess. I don't know if the trees are gonna make it,
Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. The wetter it gets, the more maple trees fall in the woods. It's not good.
right. Yeah, I can't ever remember where it's been this bad. I don't know if we've had a week without a threat of rain. I
Yeah.
think even the 2 weeks we ran, it was kind of
And we were missing rain. Yeah, yeah.
right.
That last Saturday, I'm so glad that they raced, right? But when we got there, it was raining, and then luckily the heavy stuff missed us, and within 45 minutes to an hour, I mean, we were only a half hour late, really getting started. It wasn't
No, it didn't. It
wasn't
didn't.
bad. The track was great.
Yeah.
Heavy, yeah.
It was a good track, and they
Back
do a
to
great
back.
job. They did a great job with it, for real. Yeah,
Yeah.
congrats. And
I think they do a pretty good job for the most part of getting out or at a decent time. And you guys are going when I'm going, so I feel you. But
yeah,
other than that one, I think we're 2 for 3 on getting out of there at a decent time. I think
yeah,
that
yeah,
Not terrible.
yeah.
that second week was a pretty long night.
It was long. Yeah,
Was that the
The
night we
sprint-
had
Oh,
the
the
sprint
sprint car.
sprint cars and the
Yeah.
IMCAs and yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
In a
extra
couple
cars
dashes and.
Yeah,
30 some cars.
yeah. It was a good show. Just a later show.
Right. Well, that's what I always figure is I'm not really gonna do anything better anyway.
Yeah, on those nights, it kind of makes up for the rain days a little bit here and there. You get a little more rain. So
Yeah, right. Well, I'd still
anyway,
wish it wouldn't rain.
yeah, if you could turn the thermostat up a little bit, though, they might sit in the crowd a little longer, right?
I
It
mean,
just
yeah,
gets colder and colder.
Sure enough.
right. Well, even just the threat, I don't, because I remember when I was, well, I say younger, but me and my dad, we go to all these races and we'd never really look at the weather too much. We'd always look to see if it was gonna, if they canceled. Where it seems like now people don't go at all if there's any threat of rain. Where I don't ever remember it being that way. I remember it more being that you would go unless you were told it wasn't racing.
Well, I mean, a lot of that is your technology. I mean, everyone's got a weather app on their phone. Everyone's a weatherman or a weather woman.
Well, and the weatherman had never been so right in his life, right? Like, no, they haven't been this right about the weather in my whole life, 49 years. And it's easy now just to call it rain. Yeah, it's gonna rain.
Well, last weekend before we canceled, I was talking to Jacob Stone. He drives the oh, he's in your guys'
Yeah,
class too.
yeah, he's in
Yeah,
Hobbs.
And I said 20% chance of rain, we're looking good. And he messaged me and said, "My app says 80." I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
how can they be so different?
yeah, yeah.
Well, guys, I think we're kind of running on time, and I guess we could kind of start to wrap things up. So if anybody's got anything else that they want to get off their chest, now's the
Now's the
time.
time. Well, we obviously, I always want to thank the sponsors, Universal Builders, general contractors out of Canisteo, Bob Weekland, and Larry Fairman. Can't thank them enough, to help us out with this fun trip we're going on. They're on all three cars, all these sponsors are on all three cars, or four cars, four cars. Sorry, Reese. And, again, Universal Builders, Butler, Excavating, TP's Concrete, Canisteo Automart, Loper's Auto Sales, got on board with us this year. Southern Tier Customs, of course, for the great wraps. Half-ass chassis.
Swagger.
Lubner's, on performance, great job. They do a good job for us, right?
Yeah, yeah, Billy and Adam really got us the performance parts that we need.
Yeah.
I think
Tracy Dunn,
Yeah, Tracy Dunn was big this week. He come in clutch. I mean, he definitely made the car back to 100% in safety. So I got to thank him for all his stuff. Cranes Restorations out of Orangeville, California, City View Towing. We talked about Close Racing Supply and Southern Tier Customs. There's a list that's quite extensive.
Flag Sugar Shack. Again, in the Maple Woods, I got to thank cousin Bobby. I mean, he was a huge part of getting this maple thing off the ground. One of my best friends, John Gary, Maple Johnny, he killed it all year, start to finish this year. He never missed a day. Without him, we honestly couldn't have done it. Again, Lee Bennett, for helping us. They helped us with tapping. He brought his helper up and they killed it. Just helped us out. I had a little health thing at the beginning. I had to get a little procedure done, so it kind of put me down for a few weeks, and those guys really stepped it up. Cannon, of course, he runs around out there in the Maple Woods like he's, just a 25-year-old lunatic. He can run a drill. I'll put him up with anybody, in the Maple Woods. It's unreal. And to see it all unfold, right there every day is worth it all.
And you get to do it with your son.
Yeah, every day. It's great.
And I should have asked this before, but I got to ask, what happens when somebody gets a flat tire? Do you guys got people to change it? Because I think you're racing.
Yeah,
Kind of.
yeah. We got Reese, Jay, and Trevor. Those guys are willing to fix it. And I guess if we all pulled in at the same time, Reese would probably get done first, and then probably Joey, then Cannon, then me, which would be fine by me.
We got Conklin's crew
Yeah,
too.
Conklin's crew's
So we
there.
got Corey and usually Jared's there and Ronnie Tompkins. So
Yeah.
we kind of run under their spares.
Cousin Danny. When he comes, right?
Just made this cart thing for his four-wheeler that you can load tires and jack stands on.
Yeah.
Bradley Supply.
Yeah.
Bradley Supply.
Bradley Supply. We got to thank them.
That's a huge sponsor
Yeah.
right there too.
Yeah.
So,
Jeez.
They help me out too, so I hear you.
I want to tattoo them all right here.
Yeah, then we can see him.
I was going to ask you guys if you guys had a list.
We're staring at my car.
Yeah. Yeah, his car's right there.
Yeah, we can turn you around. I mean, it's pretty simple here. Hold that a minute. Let me see.
Uh-oh.
Let's see what it looks like there. Yes. Little crinkled right there is where Reese hit me. See? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What she fixed, the skid steer did it. So they're all right there, Joe. That's how we do it.
Well, good job. Well, guys, I want to thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I know that you're all pretty busy, so when I asked Mike, he's like, I think we could do it, but Cannon might have a baseball game. I think that might be over, but I don't know. So I appreciate you guys making time today.
Worked out, man. We appreciate the phone call getting on here. The last one was pretty good. I don't know. I think we hit our mark really the last time, but
Well, yeah, that was unfortunate. Once again, I'll blame Terry Pierce of Southern Tier Customs. So he can wrap a race car, but can't run a video camera.
Don't have him do your graduation with a video camera. He can do pictures, whatever, but no, don't do it with a video camera.
Yeah. Next thing we know, he's gonna go in business trying to make videos, and everybody's gonna pull these out. All right, guys. Well, once again, I want to remind everybody to go like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, on the YouTube page of Woodhall Raceway on Facebook, and Woodhall Raceway 64 on TikTok. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.